further ado, let me hand it to our first speaker, Jennifer So. So I'll let her introduce herself as well. I mean, later the panelists can introduce themselves. But Jennifer is from GovTech. She works in the, don't know whether I can share it, but she works in the blue team, right? There's a red team, offensive side, and the blue team. So she's really, really busy right now, right? I think she's very busy because you can see that she's in the office now, virtually. Okay, so over to you, Jennifer.
Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, so hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining me in this session to talk about what is a day like being a DFIR analyst and what we actually do as a DFIR analyst. So I'm Jennifer So. I actually graduated with a double major in cyber forensics, information security and management, and also computer science. I started working out as an IT system engineer in 2010, and then I switched my career to the blue team side of cybersecurity since 2014. And actually right now I'm working in GovTech as a DFIR analyst team lead. So before I dive into the insights of a DFIR analyst, we first must know what is actually blue team. Because what we do as a DFIR analyst actually plays a big part in the whole blue team operations. So as part of the blue team, we actually serve as the defenders for all the digital assets owned by the organization, whether or not they are actually hosted internally or externally. And as a blue team, we always need to seek viable means to actually improve the ability to avoid, deter, resist, and respond to probable security threats. So through all this preemptive and proactive monitoring, we also assess the network security and also try to identify possible vulnerabilities in the software or platform that the organization uses. So with all this, we actually help the organization to improve their defense mechanisms and also to make the incident response portion stronger. So you can actually commonly find the blue team in the typical SOC security operation setup. And these SOC operation functions can be from an internal team or an external team, such as like managed security service vendors. And the objectives and duties of the blue team in a SOC is actually to understand like each phase of an incident and respond appropriately. So what we do, we also notice like suspicious traffic patterns and identify the indicator of compromise. We also need to undertake any analysis and investigation on different operating systems. So in a typical SOC, we have our sources of incidents and also the different level of tiers of escalation in the blue team. So as you can see, in the first layer from the bottom is where we actually obtain all the information and notification of cyber incidents. Usually we will actually utilize a security information and event management platform for visibility and detection of intrusions. And then the second layer, we actually have our tier 1 SOC analysts. So these SOC analysts are actually the ones that help us to do the monitoring, and they are usually on shift 24/7. And they will actually pick up the alerts and escalate to the tier 2 incident responder. So the incident responder at the tier 2 will actually help to do the triage to actually determine whether it is indeed an incident and assist to perform any impact assessment on be it the data or the assets that the organization have. So if the incident actually requires like further investigation or requires like more specialized skill sets, such as like forensics or malware analysis, or even like in-depth logs investigation, the incident will then escalate to the tier 3. So this is the traditional SOC operations with the blue team function. But as we see, like attack has been evolving tremendously over the years, there is also a need to improve the whole blue team structure. So increasingly, during these recent years, there's the SOC Operations Center actually evolved to a fusion operations center, whereby we actually incorporate like threat intelligence, analysts, and also threat hunters. So they will actually gather the indicators of compromise and use it for sense making or to even perform threat hunting for the organization to actually further discover if there is any more signs of compromise or any indication of further cyber attacks. So now you may ask, like, what is the role of a DFIR analyst? Where do I play a part in this whole SOC operations? So I actually functions at the tier 2 and tier 3 as a DFIR analyst. is where we actually respond to the incidents. And we also have like DFIR analysts that specialize in different areas, such as like digital forensics, malware analysis, incident response. So as part of the incident responder, we actually help to gather all the information like what happened, how did they find out the incident, where is their system located. Basically, what we do is we try to find information about the environment and do the impact assessment. So if forensic investigation is needed, we will actually acquire the digital evidence for forensic analysis. So these are usually done on site at the data center or at the organization office. In the next slide, I'll just show you our jump back, some of the tools that we actually bring on site. So let's say if there is a malicious file that you want to investigate further, we will actually perform like malware analysis or even reverse engineer the malware to understand the characteristics or behavior of the malware. So all this information we gotten through the analysis, we will actually perform like threat intelligence on it to help us make sense of the attack or even information about the attacker themselves. So these are the tools like we actually bring on site. So this is what we call the jump back. So this jump back actually contains tools that we need to acquire our digital evidence. We can put in our hardware devices such as like hard disks, thumb drives to store all the digital evidence. And the jump backs is usually very rugged, so it's like tamper-proof and shock-proof. So all in all, when we do investigation as a DFIR analyst, our goal is actually to uncover all the attacker's footprints. This is usually when we use the 5W and 1H, and we will actually align our investigation objectives based on this. So this to help us to piece out the whole timeline of the cyber attack from the first entry to when the attacker actually maybe exfiltrate data out. So through this investigation, we actually hope to identify the gaps that the organization have and have it remediated to deter and prevent another cyber attack from occurring. Of course, when there is no investigation that needs to be performed, we have to ensure that we actually continue to gain new knowledge, to learn more about the attack trends. We need to update ourselves with the cyber threat landscape and also know what is the cyber attacks that is actually happening around our neighbors or even the world. We will also need to like participate in cyber exercises such as CTF to demonstrate our technical capability and also learn from others by exchanging tips. So for example, recently I actually created the forensic challenge for the GovTech Stack the Flag CTF. So this is what we do when we actually don't have any investigation. Apart from that, soft skills is actually very crucial. You need to be constantly curious. So this will actually help you when you're performing analysis and trying to come up with the different hypotheses of how the incident actually occurred. And we also need to be brave to speak. This is because when an investigation ends, we will actually need to present like investigation report to our management or even parties that are involved. We also need to be like self-motivated. So when you are on a case, you have to ensure that you complete your investigation in the shortest turnaround time. So the longer you actually wait it out, the attacker may have dealt more damage than you know. We also need to be eager to learn. So technology is always evolving, like I said in my previous slide. So attackers are also constantly improving their skills. So we also need to do the same and not fall behind. Lastly, to close this presentation, I actually like this quote by this John Chambers, the Chief Executive Officer of Cisco. So there are two types of scenarios, those who have been hacked and those who don't know that they have been hacked. So as a blue team, we want to help the organization who have been compromised with what we have found. And then using these indicators, we want to help the organization to discover further whether they have been compromised in all other systems that they have. Yeah, so thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Alina. So thank you SCS for having me today to speak about conquering fear, doubts and loving it, how I dive into the cybersecurity world. Okay, first of all, let me introduce myself. So basically I love car racing, as you can see from the photo here. So I also love offensive security, OT security and automotive systems. So as the saying goes, choose a job you love and you will never have to work a day in your life. Hence, I'm currently in LTA working on connected autonomous vehicles. I also wear many hats as a cybersecurity practitioner, and today I'm wearing the DFIR hat for this presentation. So I'm also the lead and founder of Car Security Portal, also known as CSQ, which is also part of Division Zero's special interest group. I'm also a co-opted EXCO member in AISP as well. So how did I actually get started in cyber? So during my school days, I did my diploma in information communication technology in SP and my degree in Nanyang Technological University. So I hold a bachelor's in electrical electronics engineering, but as you can see, I did not study anything related to cybersecurity during my tertiary education. So what really sparked my interest in computers was actually by playing computer games. So playing computer games actually allowed me to, sometimes if you want to win in a game, you might want to hack some computer games to mine my goal or something. But I wouldn't encourage that. You can do it in a private server. But also, I actually took a couple of modules in cybersecurity and ethical hacking during Polytechnic and my university days as my electives, and that actually amplified my interest in cybersecurity. However, since I was actually interested in control and automotive systems, I actually chose an engineering degree so that I can have the versatility of being an engineer or either a cybersecurity practitioner. So similar to my studies, I actually did not start out my career as a cybersecurity professional. I actually joined Coke Industries as an IT infrastructure analyst, actually gained experience on enterprise systems and shop floor systems and control systems. So in Coke Industries, for some of you guys who may not know, it's one of the largest privately held MNC, US MNC based in the US. It's also owned by the Koch brothers. So that itself actually allowed me to, because they actually own multiple companies, such as they are actually doing operational technology stuff, they do a lot of manufacturing stuff. So I actually had a lot of experience being exposed to those systems. So having said that, what actually made me take the plunge into cybersecurity? So since like in about 2017, there were actually a lot of news coverage on ransomware such as WannaCry and NotPetya. And I actually told myself that I would actually like to jump into some of that action and secure these systems. Hence, without overthinking it, I actually started out my cybersecurity career as a cybersecurity consultant at a US management consulting firm as my first job for cybersecurity, which is Booz Allen Hamilton. And that actually broadened my horizon and my view on cybersecurity. And after a few years of doing generic cybersecurity, I wanted to focus on automotive security, where my interest greatly lies in automotive racing and control systems. So I joined LTA as a senior cybersecurity engineer. So in LTA, LTA is actually deploying autonomous vehicles in the future. And I wanted to be part of securing all these AV systems. And besides that, there are also train systems, bus systems that actually allow me to explore OT security as well. Okay, so having talked briefly about my journey into cybersecurity, and now I will actually speak about the roles in cybersecurity. So I've broken down into two different aspects, both the red team, which is known as offensive security, and the blue team, which is known as defensive security. So as you know that for my first job, it's not IT or cybersecurity, right? So as an IT infrastructure analyst, although there's no cybersecurity aspects to it, I actually gained infrastructure related skills that were actually beneficial to securing enterprise and OT systems. So enterprise, you have your thin clients, thick clients, workstations, firewalls. And the interesting things is that we actually get to be exposed to, like, even on trucks, they have like thin clients to actually log into the systems. So that was one thing that I didn't know until I actually joined Coke Industries. And for Booz Allen, as a senior cybersecurity consultant, I worked on both red teaming and blue teaming aspects. So for red teaming, I actually performed some of the security testing on OT systems, such as factory acceptance testing, and actually wrote recommendations to prevent the attacks. So the interesting bit is that all these systems that we did testing in Singapore was actually preparing to be shipped to the middle of the ocean in the Middle East itself. So for blue teaming, I actually worked on several projects that actually secured both the IT and OT systems for various major companies based on the zero trust methodology. I also provided consulting services such as risk management and cybersecurity consulting, which actually gave me further insights and exposure towards the cybersecurity industry. So as for my current role for red teaming, my team and I actually built a connected and autonomous vehicle sort of lab, and it's like a exploration program to actually perform security testing on vehicular test benches. This actually allowed us to actually understand vehicular architectures and hopefully locate vulnerabilities. So in turn, this actually allowed us to secure the systems based on the vulnerabilities found and provide better regulatory guidelines and recommendations to the regulatory regime. I'm also in charge of building the internal capability in LTA for the cybersecurity aspect of CAV. And I also work on a little bit on the strategic aspect on the cyber of CAV as well. Okay, so cybersecurity is definitely more than just securing businesses and people. That is why I actually love being part of cybersecurity, as I get to work on them even after my work time. So this is basically what I do for my hobby. So my team at CSQ, we actually build automotive test benches to understand more about vehicular protocols and architectures. So in short, we actually got our hands dirty to understand things better. So as you can see in the middle picture, we were doing a lot of soldering. Eventually, that's our first test bench right on the picture on the right itself that we built up from different vehicular parts. And CSQ, we actually conduct a regular hands-on session on automotive security regularly to actually get people together to solve problems and think out of the box. So the group actually comprises both practitioners, students, and professionals. So it's a good mix to get people started itself. So, and then we actually utilize all of our research and presented in conferences such as SynCon and HITB GSEC, and most recently RUCON as well, to contribute back to the community. But because when we first started out, we actually have no knowledge on vehicular architectures at all. Because of this research that the community has given to us, we will actually be we were able to have like breakthroughs in our own research. Hence, we actually strongly believe in giving back to the community itself. So our most recent gig was our talk in RUCON. So RUCON is a conference based in Philippines. And we actually conducted our virtual car hacking labs to teach audience about vehicular communication protocols and also some hands-on labs at HITB's online conference. So our next session will be in SynCon, which is upcoming on Jan 2nd and 3rd, where we will teach a workshop as well. It's actually online and it's free to attend. So get the tickets. Right. So I'm also a strong advocate on raising interest in cybersecurity besides automotive cybersecurity. So one of the ways I do so is to speak at schools to get students interested in taking on the field and to address any burning questions that they may have about cybersecurity. So one of the examples is at the top right picture is at ITE West for ASP Ladies in Cyber. And I think earlier this year was also at St. Margaret's Secondary School. I actually did a talk on cybersecurity careers as well. So I actually also constantly challenge myself and even mix around with the international community to learn from different practices. So some of these opportunities I had was to actually present our work overseas at Abu Dhabi, to actually conduct an all-women automotive security workshop, and had an exhibition set up with the car hacking village from DEFCON to actually learn from them as well. So I actually enjoyed every minute of my cybersecurity journey since I ever got into it. So you can see that there's also overseas practices and now online. So this is part and parcel of how we actually try to contribute back to the community. So after hearing my journey, I do have some advice for aspiring cybersecurity practitioners. So cybersecurity is an ever-changing landscape. Definitely be inquisitive and ready to learn. And also never give up and don't be afraid to fail. So I actually slept at 5 AM last night because I was trying an exploit on my own machine. So that is how determined I am to work on some different stuffs as well. So, and I always hear stories that from people that they are afraid of attempting some exams as they are afraid of failing. But my advice is, of course, to study well and, of course, try harder. If you don't attempt the exam, you will never know which areas you're actually weak in. So definitely seek mentorships from the industry and communities such as Division 0, SCS, and ASP. So cybersecurity is an extremely wide field. You can't be expected to know everything. So definitely mix around with the community and absorb all this knowledge like a sponge. So also, as much as certificates are important, trainings are even more important. Don't go around chasing certifications for the sake of it and overlook the bigger picture of acquiring knowledge, because building a foundation is definitely very important. And of course, keep yourself updated on the latest cybersecurity news, the latest being the SolarWinds. Here are some of the avenues that you can read from: ZDNet, Wired, Threatpost, Crepson Security, FireEye. They have a detailed write-up on SolarWinds as well. And then these are also some books recommended by CSA to check them out. So that's all for my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. So if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the chat box. Thank you.
I think one of the very interesting point is dare to be a woman of security. Indeed, there is a lot of, in general, skill gap in the field, and we can use that as female professionals to increase our chances for a successful career. And before I go into those details, let me introduce myself. So I'm Magda Shelley, have been living in Singapore for more than 5 years now and lived in 5 other countries. I have a PhD in telecommunication engineering. I graduated as well as an engineer, had a master in the same, and then continued my studies in France for 3 more years to do my research. So I did not graduate in cybersecurity, but I had a very strong technical background. In 2000, and I would say 8, at that time, when still the industry wasn't, in general, industries were not interested in cybersecurity as such, or they were not that mature, IT consultancy was more something that I was driven towards, or basically encouraged by companies to work in. And I started my career as an IT consultant, where I have had the chance to discover a little bit more of a strong and very strict regulatory landscape, which is basically within the financial institutions. And I had the opportunity to work in a banking industry for some time, and then moved across my career to various other different positions. And all those positions had in common one point: I needed to do different things and communicate with different stakeholders, from technical teams to business stakeholders to pre-sale marketing. And the expectations from the companies were always mostly the same: have the ability to communicate and drive your message to those various stakeholders. And I love that. This actually, with increasing passion around cybersecurity, ended up being very interesting for my career, because slowly I moved into having a job in the field, which again, many years ago wasn't available, or companies were not recruiting that much in that field. Now, one question that I get very often as well is, how did you start your cybersecurity journey? And I'm not sure how many of you are familiar in how a PhD is achieved, and especially in France, how that works. Basically, you start the research around a particular topic, and then you are supposed to find innovation and publish articles every certain period of time. Usually every year you need to have a minimum a certain number of articles in respectable scientific journals, and then you can pass to the next year. Now, this journey can be very long and lonely, because it's 3 years of research where you usually have a professor helping you find the right direction, but most of the time you are actually searching by yourself in a lab or at the university or at home. And while I was doing that, obviously I found myself researching a lot of stuff, a lot of technical aspects, and at the same time, I was curious about how to break things. And one story that I really like to tell, and it's a real true story. At that time, again, long time ago, Hotmail and MSN were very popular. And one of the aspects of how I started in cybersecurity is basically I tried to break Hotmail. And it's literally nothing major, because at that time it was extremely easy. There was a flow in the password reset, and you didn't need any big technical skills to start it or to do it. But for me, that was what drove my passion around it. And I was really curious, how come such a company having and providing those services to individuals actually did not think about those aspects. Now, again, all over my career, I moved from a different perspectives, from digital providers to telecommunication companies, going from different kind of, again, roles where always I had a title, but always ended up being requested or asked to perform different activities and had different responsibilities, which when it comes to cybersecurity in itself can be extremely valuable. Now, when we talk about cybersecurity, we talk about blue team, red team, other areas, and I will come back to that in a bit. We do actually have a big challenge in the industry, a lack of alignment with the business in general, and a lack of communication as well when it comes to cyber risk. And as I had this exposure across the different industries, different cultures as well, and different kind of requirements within one business, I managed to communicate the different cyber risk to the business stakeholders in a simplified way, which actually lent me in roles like a business information security officer or chief information security officer. Now, when you have those roles, and when you look at cybersecurity in general, you're enabled to be an expert in every single cybersecurity domain or area. That's impossible. If someone tells you that they are, then don't believe it, honestly, because again, everyone has a particular expertise. You have experts in blue team, you have experts in offensive security, you have an expert in governance, in compliance, etc. So when you are a chief information security officer, you need to tap into the expertise of your team and ensure that they have the right direction to help the company manage their cyber risk. So you come up with a vision, you come up with a roadmap, you communicate those risks with the business stakeholders, and you work with your team to achieve your objectives and goals that need to be aligned with the business. So I keep on repeating the word business, but again, it's critical if you would like to move in that particular career. Now, many of the chief information security officer find it a little bit challenging to communicate again with the business stakeholders. Perhaps they have challenges as well to get their budget or to make sure that those business stakeholders understand the importance of cybersecurity. And I think from what I have seen, this general challenge is due to a lack of communication. And I really like the fact that today communication has been a topic from the first presentation. I mean, we have seen that communication and having the capability to define properly a message is extremely important, even within a blue team. So it's a very important skill that we need to have as professionals in the industry. Now, aside of my career and what I have achieved or where I am today, basically all those experiences across countries, across companies, helped me to understand that as well the perception of cyber risk, or what we call as well the risk appetite of the companies, might be different. So as a cybersecurity professionals, you might think or want to secure everything as much as possible. But what you need as well to understand is that the business perspective is different. They might think that, well, that risk is not big enough for them to invest, for example, $100,000. And that therefore drives their decision into not implementing everything that a security professional would recommend or advise. So there's a different perspectives, different discussions to have with the business. And today that's what I'm doing. I'm basically trying to advise businesses, chief information security officer of different companies, different industries, of how to ensure that while they address cyber risk, that they have the right communication, that they manage to get their budget properly, that the business stakeholders understand what is at stake. It's not only to be compromised. What does it mean for a business? You know, very often when we talk about malware, DDoS, and we actually go too far when we talk about that with someone who is not in our field. They just do not have the understanding. So again, this is my passion, and this is what I do for every day's living. At the same time, in the evenings and whenever I have the time, I hack. I'm not a professional hacker. I do it for fun. I really do believe that it's extremely exciting to learn every day new ways on to how to compromise machines. Now, when you are a CISO, do you need to hack? You don't need to hack, and it won't be part of your daily activities. But I definitely do advise it because it opens your perspective and you try and you understand more how cyber criminals as well can think, or how can a cyber attack exactly be performed, and not keep on the very high level, because then your communication with the technical team might be limited. So now enough of my career, and please feel free as well to ask questions about anything related to becoming or being a CISO. I actually would like to share with you further about WOSEC. And WOSEC started with Women of Security, was a group that I have created in Singapore when I came into the country. And the objective was to encourage or to build a group where female professionals in cybersecurity can just gather together and share knowledge, share advices, support each other, find mentors, enable them as well to talk on different events, making sure that they have the right support when they are facing challenges, because that still exists. So today the group has more than 400 members. We have, of course, our own website, blog, as you can see in the slide. We have as well our meetup, and we have organized several events. So within those events, either they have been like virtual, like now today, or either they have been physical. And I loved our events during the 2019 and 2020, and I will share a little bit further about those. So in 2020, this was the first initiative that we shared or organized to recognize women in security in Singapore. And we had really a lot of nominations, but I still do believe that we should have much more. Why? The reason being is because WOSEC came as a group as well to celebrate other women's successes. And those women, usually you or myself or our colleagues, do not have enough support when it comes especially to public visibility of your achievements. So we really want to encourage you to nominate yourself, nominate your friends, nominate your colleagues whenever you have the opportunity to come across those initiatives. And we have done it, and we had 20 women who stand up across within the list, which with amazing initiatives, and that allowed us just to celebrate their capabilities, celebrate their achievements. And of course, again, that helped a lot of recognition, because I do believe personally that we don't have enough recognitions as female professionals in the field. First of all, because it's very well known that women do not brag about themselves, much less than men. So this is something that helps to break that barrier or obstacle. And second, because again, we tend to be sometimes a little bit more shy. So whenever we do something or achieve something, we don't actually emphasize this in the way that we could. And you will tell me why this is important. Well, today, you actually need to as well show your achievement publicly and show your confidence. Because if not, that might actually keep you back in your career progress. And it actually, as well, when you do it, open new opportunities for you. I give you very simple examples. I got a lot of opportunities of collaboration through just social media, or just because someone heard from someone that, you know, I have achieved something. And every single woman who has been on that list has been emphasized over our social media platforms, and we help them to have more visibility. So if we look at completely outside of any limits, basically being visible there might lead to new career opportunities, might lead to promotion, might lead to an amazing article just talking about you, and especially will ensure that other female professionals see and have role models. So by having role models and reading your stories and seeing that you're actually making amazing achievements, it encourages and motivates the youngest. And this is extremely important if we want to create more diversity. So this was the first initiative this year, and hopefully next year, of course, there will be another one. And I'm really encouraging everyone here within the call to nominate themselves or their colleagues, and to ensure that they spread the word about it as well. Now, in 2019, we started our CTF for Girls competition. And it has been absolutely, again, fantastic to see so many women trying to hack. Some of them, they were not even from a background of offensive security. Some of them, they were just from other completely areas like compliance with no technical background. But they all came into a safe environment. And when I mean safe, I will come back to that. In an environment that they found themselves being able to learn without being judged. And that was something that was extremely important, because I get the question, why it's only a CTF for girls, why you didn't plan a CTF that is without any gender, discrimination, because sometimes might be perceived like that, positive discrimination. So the answer is simple. Without having enough confident women to come and join those CTFs, the mixed CTF will not have enough female professionals joining those. And we have seen that across the world. You have a hackathon, you have a CTF, and you have a very small percentage of women participating. So we want to break that obstacle. And while today we have managed in 2019 and 2020 to have more women really going out there and trying to learn hacking, we are trying to, again, encourage them slowly. So in the future, we can organize mixed CTF with other associations. And I know that Emil is here and we talked about it, just to ensure that the adoption rate of other female professionals is as high as male professionals. And that will create a real egalitarian opportunities and balance between both genders. And again, as you can see in the picture here, we had really very good turnout. And the 2019 was around 45 women turnout and 25 hacking. And we had, of course, 3 winners. And I was so absolutely amazed by the winners. One of the winners wasn't even 18. She was extremely young, Jiawen Zhang. And it's, again, fantastic. It gives the opportunity for you today to see that it's something that you're welcome to join, even if you don't have the technical skills, because you're going to learn. They are mentors usually that are present within the events, and they help you to try slowly to try to understand the basics even. And then, of course, you have the ones who have the knowledge, and they can eventually win very nice gifts at the end. In 2020, as you know, there was a big pandemic, so unfortunately we couldn't ensure the same physical event, but we had a virtual event. And that event, the CTF, was part of SG Cyber Women series, and we had a very big and important turnout. It was absolutely great and fantastic. We had 67 women this year hacking or trying to hack, with all of them receiving actually access to the Hack the Box platform to learn. So again, the objective is not to give you only a safe environment for upskilling yourself, but as well to ensure that you continue and you have the passion to learn more and more over the time. So, and as such, other initiatives with WOSEC Singapore is general meetups. I don't do many of them because, first of all, we haven't been able to meet physically, and second is because those big events requires a lot of energy, and I focus onto the bigger picture and recognition of the female professionals in Singapore, giving them the possibility as well to learn and evolve in the career. Just as a point as well to add, on the previous initiative for top 20 women, the first winner got a scholarship to move her career into becoming a CISO. So my objective, or our objective as WOSEC Singapore, is to empower you, give you as well the right tools and environment to succeed in your learning and in your career. And for that, we need collaboration. So we collaborate with other women in security groups. For example, in this particular panel, we collaborated with a woman in cybersecurity group Middle East, and we had the opportunity to exchange about challenges and conscious biases, examples of scenarios that happened to every one of us, and how did we overcome them. And as an example, which was mentioned, is the fact that you go into a meeting and you are the only female professional there. You want to bring up an idea, but that idea might not be heard or just might be dismissed. This is something that has been as well shared by very powerful women in other industries. One of the good tips is to use a sponsor or have someone that you discuss that idea before the meeting, and when you go to the meeting, that sponsors actually empowers your idea and gives you credit. So it encourages everyone else to say, yes, for example, you know, Angela had an amazing idea last week. We do believe we should implement it. So simple tips have been shared across different panels, and I definitely as well encourage all of you to follow WOSEC Singapore events and to attend them, and as well to give us any feedback if you need or want any specific support. We're here to help female professionals and create egalitarian opportunities. And as last few slides, because I'm conscious of time and we probably hopefully have some, you know, feedback from the audience and we can discuss a little bit further, as I wanted to end up with the fact, again, coming back on the career, because it's the topic today. When you look at this map, and this is the version 1, we have a version 2. You can't aim, if you're not in cybersecurity, or even if you are in cybersecurity, to be an expert of everything. That is not possible. You can choose 1, 2, 3 areas where you believe you are very good at and focus on those. You can choose to have an understanding on a high level of others, but find your passion, find what really drives you. And how do you find that? Is by reading about it. Read articles, read blogs. And when you have identified that, try to find a path. So talk with people that have been through that path. Try to understand what does it mean to work in, for example, compliance? What does it mean to work in data protection? What does it mean to work in vulnerability management? Because whatever you read might not reflect exactly what is a one day in the life of that person. So if you want to evolve in your career, try to as well understand that. And then when you have that visibility, build a career roadmap for your career. It's the same like with anything. You need to have goals, and you need to have goals and timelines and follow them. Those goals can be definitely followed or supported by certifications, but the certifications are not the goal. And this is very important. It's not about the number of certifications, about the passion and the learning that you have about a topic that you believe you're really good at and you want to evolve further. And that way you can help companies, you can help clients, you can have your own company or organization to achieve their goals. And this is very important. And Alina mentioned that as well. So it's not only about having a certain number of certifications, especially that some of them, and most of the certifications in this slides are not memory-based certifications, but they are still to some extent. So the most important is the passion, the experience, you being good at one particular area that you want to continue growing in, and then that fortunately will be contagious and everyone will see it, and you will bring value to, again, the company or the organization that you're working in. So that's for today. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed a little bit insights from WOSEC Singapore and myself, and I am happy to answer any questions.